Good morning. Let's actually pop over to here. Hello, everyone, for joining me today. Excuse me, I'm still coughing. It's terrible. My name is Mark Mandel. If we haven't met before, I'm a developer advocate for games for Google Cloud Platform. I like to play with fun stuff with multiplayer games and dedicated game servers. If you haven't come to this stream before, I work on a project called Agones. It's an open source project for scaling and hosting dedicated game servers on top of another open source project called Kubernetes, which is all about running dedicated or running processes across lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of machines. Excuse me. Still coughing a little bit. Unfortunately, I've got a bunch of medication from my doctor. You'll notice a slightly different angle if you've gone in before. I have a new machine. I have a new laptop, and it has its camera at the bottom. So we'll see upwards facing. So why don't I actually skip over to looking at some code, and we'll continue where we potentially left off last time we chatted, which was fun. So what are we talking about today? Last few episodes, I guess, for lack of a better term, we've been looking at running fleets of game servers. So running a whole bunch of dedicated game servers in a fleet so they're warm and ready so that people can connect to them and they can do stuff with them, and that's all good. And why is my chat all over here? That's better. Oh man, I really am coughing today. Let me grab a cough drop so that I'm not doing that quite so annoyingly. And we pretty much got this working. I've done some work between streams, so I'm going to actually start with a short demo so we can actually see what it is that we're doing. That's better. And we can see what's happening. So I have a little game server. I make it quote unquote, in which, what's the words I'm looking for? In which I have a really simple UDP-based game server called Simple UDP here. It's already containerized. It's all set up. It's ready to go. If you haven't seen it before, it's a Docker file. There's just a binary. It just opens up a UDP port, pretends to do some work, which is all good. And if I want to set this up as a fleet, I can do that through this YAML configuration. And this is all pretty much working, which is quite nice. So I define this thing called a fleet inside a YAML file. I can do this through the API as well. I can give it a name or have Kubernetes generate one for me. We'll look at that in a minute. And then it's just a question of setting up what is the container that I want to use, what port is it running on, and how many replicas do I want to have in this fleet. So let's actually look at this. Let's run this. That looks like a good size. Let me know if any of the text is too small or anything like that. I've got an instance of Minikube running locally. I don't think there's anything running on it. Nope, there are no pods. Get fleets, nothing. Okay, cool. So let's fire this up. This is all kind of working, which is kind of cool, but we've got some edge cases I want to work on today and see how those go. And try and clean up some of the error conditions that can potentially happen when like bad things happen and stuff. Also, working from home, so my dog is in the background. She is being only vaguely annoying today, which is good, but she's a delightful animal. All right, so what I want to do is I want to send this YAML file, this fleet YAML file, up to Kubernetes. So if you haven't done this before, kubectl is the command line. Again, you could do any of the stuff I do with kubectl with the API directly. So I'm just going to apply it. Example, simple UDP, server fleet .yaml. Okay, so that's going to create a fleet for me. If we have a look at that fleet that we just created, we'll say describe fleet simple UDP. Cool, we'll get a whole bunch of stuff. We can see that we have 2 replicas and 2 of them are ready. So 2 of them are ready to go, which is quite cool. So if I have a look at game servers, if I don't use the shorthand, we can see we have 2 game servers there that have come out of that fleet. Coughing badly. So we have those 2 game servers there. And if we want to increase the number over this fleet, we can totally do that as well. So if I say kubectl edit fleet simple UDP and say rather than 2, I now want 3. Let's do that. So that should now extend that. So if I do GS is the shorthand for game servers, I now have 3, right? And you can see there, 4 seconds, one just got created for me because I updated it, right? So I can scale these up and down quite nicely, just manually. And down the line, we're going to look at Agones for doing auto scaling and stuff like that. But for now, you can just control this. So once I have these up, when a game server is ready to receive a connection, so if I describe, say, one of these, it moves into a ready state. So game server, simple UDP, there's the dog. So we see here we go, status, state ready, right? So that's ready to receive connection. But what I need is a way of saying, okay, for this game server out of this fleet, I want like, give me one. Like I just want one so that I can use it. And I know that it's allocated to me. So in the last few streams, we've been working on this thing called a fleet allocation, which is basically that. It's a request to Agones inside Kubernetes to say, hey, create for me an allocation, pick one of these game servers out of the pool of game servers that we have and give me one back, and do it in a like locked manner, right? Do it in a safe way so I don't have to worry about collisions or anything like that. So this is pretty much working actually, which is kind of neat. Oh, and we'll step through how some of this stuff works. But this is basically, so we have a client, it's a fleet allocation. Generally, I think when you would do this in production and you would hook it up with say like a matchmaker or something like that, you'd probably interact with it through the Kubernetes API, of which you can get clients and that kind of stuff. But we can do it all through the kubectl command line interface, make life easy. So let's do that and see if this works. It should all be fine. So I'm going to specifically say kubectl create here. You may have noticed that previously I was writing kubectl apply. This is actually just a really small thing. So difference being here, when I say the name of something and I've specified a very specific name, I can say kubectl apply, which basically is like an upset, right? It says to Kubernetes, if it doesn't exist, create it. And if it does exist, then patch it and just merge the differences. And that's all good. But when I create my allocation, I really don't want to specify a name because I want each one to be unique. So I tell Kubernetes to generate a name for me. Since Kubernetes doesn't know what the name is, I need to be explicit about exactly what it is that I want it to do when it hits this thing. So I'm saying here, create it for me because you're generating a name. We don't know what the name is. So so we're telling it to generate a name. Oh, this is a good point here. We also specify what fleet we want to grab something from, because if we don't tell Kubernetes what fleet to grab something from, then it doesn't know where to grab it from. Well, actually, Agones needs to know which fleet to grab one from, look for one that's ready, and allocate out. So let's have a look. So create -f. It's a file example, simple UDP, server, fleet allocation. Now here's a good trick, which you can see just there. So if I put -o YAML, that means it's going to return back the results of what it is that I'm trying to do in YAML form. So we're actually going to get it straight away, which is going to be really nice. All right, so in theory, I will hit that and boom, beautiful. So what this comes back with is a whole bunch of stuff. But what's happened is I've said to Kubernetes, hey, create me a fleet allocation. It spat back a bunch of stuff. You can see, where are we? What's the interesting thing? So here's like the generate name. Whoops. A bunch of other information we're not going to worry about right now. Here's the fleet we want. And then there's a bunch of information here in the status. And the status just has the game server that it is that we just got allocated. And this will look very much like the game servers you might have seen when I was just hitting describe before. It has a whole bunch of information about what port it's on, what container it's on. Here we can see the IP. Here we can see what port it's on. The interesting thing to note is that it is now state allocated. This is a big deal, which is kind of cool. Yeah, exactly. Like that's kind of cool, isn't it? That is spiffy buns. Fantastic. So when we've actually created the fleet allocation, it's gone, looked for a ready one, and then said, hey, that's cool. Thanks. Here's an allocated one. The rest of them stay as unallocated, and it's been returned to me, and I'm ready to use it. And I know it's mine, which is also really, really nice. So if I, if I do something like this, the annoying thing is I feel like I need some visualizations of this at this point. But if I look at game servers and I just grep state, for example, no, that's there. Grep state. There we go. So if we actually look at the three, right? So we've got 3 game servers, 2 of them are ready, and 1 of them is allocated. So we can actually see that, which is kind of cool. So that's all pretty much working, which is kind of neat. And we'll actually note, do we care about this? That if we delete a game server, it actually will also remove that fleet allocation as well. That's a cleanup process we've already set up. Basically because the game server owns the fleet allocation and Kubernetes knows to do that kind of garbage collection, which is nice. So, What do we want to do from here? Okay, so that all seems to be kind of working, which is kind of cool. And there's some other things I want to test and make sure they work as well. But I've got a bunch of to-dos here for what it is that we needed to do. So, okay. So I have a couple of things in here kind of that's a bit weird, that don't have the best... I'm not happy with how they're working right now. Fred Dutch has asked a question. Okay, would there be a case where you'd have fleets for specific uses? Just trying to rationalize why Agones wants you to specify the fleet you want to pull the server from. Yeah, so you totally might want to have fleets for different uses. You might want to have a specific fleet for an individual game. So you might have one fleet for a particular game, another fleet for another. If you wanted to, say, A/B test, which fleets different people were getting, you might want to run separate fleets with different sizes. You might, shared infrastructure, QA systems, where you might be running different versions for fleets. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. So you may not be running one game server on a cluster, or you may also just be doing a variety of different things. It really kind of depends on what it is you're doing. So you may definitely be running different fleets. And then you can pick and choose which ones you want necessarily to be able to access. But that is a good question. Like, why just rationalize? Yeah, because this just gives you flexibility. It gives you a lot of flexibility on what it is you want to be able to access and when you want to be able to access it, just by basically referencing by name. Otherwise, it could just be any arbitrary thing running inside the system, and then like, what is that? Who knows what that does? That kind of stuff. I hope that answers your question, Afraid Duchess. But that is a good question. What do I want to do? Okay, so I had a few things in here. I was thinking about this last night. What I want to do is, okay, so the first one I want to deal with is if you put in the wrong fleet name, right? And that kind of is already here, and you'll see it here. So when you do, actually, let's take a step back. Let's take a step back. Okay, so there are two types of webhooks inside Kubernetes that let you intercept when things happen inside the system. There is one called a mutation webhook configuration, and there's a validation webhook configuration. And that's basically how all this stuff works. So a mutation webhook configuration allows you to say, hey, when X thing gets created, updated, deleted, let me intercept that, and then I'm going to be able to edit it and then spit it out the other side. And I can make those changes, which is how the fleet allocation works. We intercept, so we have a mutation handler. This is just some plumbing code I wrote. We get in this thing called an emission review, which has a big JSON object in it. And we basically just manipulate the JSON object and spit out a patch on the other side. There's a whole thing called a JSON patch, which I'm not going to get into much right now. But basically, we manipulate that JSON object as it comes through. And then we can edit it so that you'll see here, where are we? I go hunting for... where I allocate, so I grab myself a game server out of that thing, assuming there is one and one's available. We'll look at that in a bit. I then do some edits to it, and I set the status to that game server, and basically I create a patch and spit it out the other side. And that all works really great. The wonderful and interesting things about mutation webhook configuration and a validation webhook configuration is they take the same structure as well. They both take emission reviews and spit out emission reviews. And you can actually say things like, this thing here, allowed equals false, right? So just like reject it, right? Like, this is bad, I don't like it, don't do it. And a validation webhook runs after the mutation webhooks. So that's the flow usually. And you can actually change that inside your Kubernetes cluster if you're setting up your own Kubernetes cluster, and that's a whole other thing. But the validation webhook is basically meant to look at the data and then spit back an error if something really weird has happened. There's actually a variety of things you can actually do for validation as well. Why don't we have a look? So you can actually do some client-side validation as well. So here we go, CRDs, fleet allocation. So there's some basic stuff you can do inside your custom resource definition spec. So here you can see some where I've defined my fleet allocations. I've specified that it has to have a fleet name, and here's like this pattern that it has to adhere to. And that gives me some nice stuff. But if I want to do something more complicated, such as say, right, you're asking for a fleet that just doesn't exist, how do I do something about that? So if we look at this actually as an interesting thing, where are we? So if we have where's our fleet allocation, and I put in something that doesn't, it's just weird, right? That doesn't exist. I'll show you what happens. This is actually quite interesting. So I go create, and right, so it says here, right? So I tried to do it, error from server, error in creating, internal error occurred, omission webhook mutations, it denied the request, invalid fleet allocation. So this is good, right? This is kind of good. This is what we want, except it doesn't really tell us why it's invalid, which is bad. We don't like that. That's not useful. And for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure why, if we do this nicely on a validating webhook rather than a mutating webhook, we get a lot more information at the client level, which is much nicer. So what I want to do today is basically take this here. Actually, I'll take a step back here. So I did the work here to put in the reasons for why this failed, and there's a bunch of stuff you can put in here. So you can say allowed equals false, so that'll reject it. We'll put in a status. All right, that status is just success or fail. I'm not quite sure why there's a double up there. There's a reason. So there's a variety of reasons you can also spit back here too. Everything from it's invalid to a timeout to I couldn't find a certain thing, all sorts of stuff like that. And when you say status reason invalid, you can actually put in a bunch of details, like was there a type of field, value not found, all this kind of stuff. So here we go, some clause types. Here we go, type, go on clause type, here we go. Let's just go into the thing, right? So value not found, there was something required, maybe there was a duplicate, something was invalid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so this looks like it's pretty good. Except we don't get this stuff when we do a mutating webhook, right? So we don't want that. So my theory, this is the theory that I'm running with, is what I want to do is on the mutating webhook, I want to say if we can't find the fleet, right? The fleet comes back and it says it's not found. Let's just log a warn and just be like, nope, that's bad, don't know about it. But then let's go back to the validating webhook. And then if we have a look and we see that there's no game server attached to this thing, then we're like, oh, I know why that is. That's because there's no fleet. I think that's going to be okay. I don't think that's going to bite us too bad. And it might give us a nicer error message. And we'll see what that error message looks like. So let's just do that. That sounds like fun. Okay, so the first thing here, I'm going to be cheeky and just comment this out. And because I want to use it later. I'm going to use it later. So, okay. So instead what we're doing rather than all this stuff is, okay, so K8s errors is a package for looking at errors within Kubernetes. So it says, for this error, is it a not found error? Which it isn't. And I'm going to just spit out a warn and then just return review nil. Like I'm just going to just chuck it through. Just like, don't change it. Just let it pass through to the keeper, which is a cricket metaphor, which I don't know if anyone plays cricket. I don't, but growing up Australian, what are you going to do? Anyway, all right, so, okay, so if anything else, if it's not a not found error, it's something we don't know about, and we're like, that's just weird, so please just spit it out and return it. Okay, so that's cool. Let's build that in the background, actually. Make build images, whoops. No, actually, I lied. Let's, okay, so we've got that. So we need a validation handler for the fleet allocation. So let's set that up first. All right, so to configure that, we need to go into here. Where are we? We have a mutating webhook, but we also have, come on, open, thank you, and a validating webhook. All right. Come on, open. Thank you. All right, cool. So this is the Kubernetes configuration. It's pretty straightforward, I think. So you have a validating webhook. We've gone through this before. Basically, it goes to this /validate URL. I've got some plumbing that routes stuff based on software internally, so everything goes through the one place. And right now, I just want to pick up fleet allocations for create. So here, so I'm just going to edit that. So here, basically it says pass through the information if we're in this particular API group, which is just what we've specified. And we want, fleet allocations come through on create. And I've got some internal plumbing that routes this through that I'm not going to talk about too much today. Okay, so that's that. So now the Kubernetes system knows, hey, when fleet allocations get created, excuse me, let me know. So that's all good. All right, so that should work. Now let's go back into our controller. And alrighty, so I need a handler for this. So we're gonna add an extra handler. Let's pop this down. Make my life easier. Now it was validate, right? That's not what I wanted. Control-Shift-T. Oh. Make sure I get the handler name right. Just /validate. There we go. So validate and mutate, those handlers look exactly the same behind the scenes. Rather than creation mutation, so creation validation handler, which doesn't yet exist, which is fine. We might let's drop that down in the next line so it's a bit easier to look at. So this is just some plumbing code. This WH, this is my webhook system. I tell it what kind I want it to come through. So fleet allocation, what operation to intercept, and then there's a handler that I've predefined. And it's not going to create it for me, but that's okay. All right, so we can actually steal some of this stuff, which is okay, because the handler is exactly the same. And in fact, let's do this. I can steal it. Okay, creation validation handler. Perfect. Let's clean all that up because otherwise that's bad. All right. Creation validation handler intercepts creation of a fleet allocation. And if there is no game server, we'll call it actually status, game server set, then we will assume that the fleet name, or sorry, spec fleet name is invalid. That might be a problem later at some point, but you know what? Let's run with it. We can deal with it if it is. So just want to put some logging in. So what are the steps that happen here? So we have this review. It has both a request and a response object. It comes through, it basically spits out at us a raw. It's just JSON. It's just a byte array. It's nothing special. We are kind of marshal it into a fleet allocation, and then we can just do our checks. So, and in fact, since I'm doing that, why don't I grab this from up here too? So that gets there. Okay, we're gonna chuck this here just for a moment, so I've got it. Okay, cool. So this should be pretty straightforward. So the theory we're running with right now is that the game server is not set. If we've run through mutation hook, game server is not set, then we're just going to assume the fleet's bad. The fleet name that's specified is bad. In theory, that might not be true. We could double check that. I'm just trying to decide if we want to do that or not. Let's have a look. All right, so if fa.status, where are we? fa.status.game server equals nil. And the game server is a pointer, so that's fine. Excuse me. Then we know something bad's happened. And in fact, what we could do is just say return. Return review nil. We could just short circuit that real quick. This is the OK state. Sweet. All right. Otherwise, we're going to be like, nope, this is bad. Actually, change my mind. I'll tell you why, because this will be neater, because I can edit it on the fly. There we go. Okay, so if it is nil, then let's take this, put it in here, and then our return statement always stays the same. Cool. All right. So what are we saying? So if it's nil, maybe look up the fleet to double check. It's probably not a terrible idea. Maybe we do that. Maybe that would make me feel a little bit more comfortable. But let's test this out and see if this is doing what I think it should do when we want to do it. Okay, so, all right, so if the game server is nil, right, so no allocation actually occurred, and that's bad, then let's work out why. All right, so right now we're just going to assume, excuse me, that there was nothing here. So let's have a look-see. Let's have a look-see. Okay. Oh, we got some viewers back. Okay, so I apologize. It looks like I dropped out. I don't know what happened, but we're back. We're back. It looks like my Wi-Fi cut out or something. That's really upsetting. Anyway, let's pick up where we left off. I'm not sure. Let me know if I've jumped too far ahead. I have no idea where the stream dropped out. Basically, I'm working in the validation handler right now, so that I can see exactly what it is that's so I can spit back a better error. That's basically what I'm meant to be working on right now. So yeah, if you have particular questions about where I'm at, please just chuck something in chat and I'll backtrack and work out where I was before I ended up being interrupted by my flaky internet. Ah, man, that's disappointing. All right. Let's see what we're doing. Okay. Okay. So where I was is I'm creating this validation handler for validation, and I am specifying that whatchamacallit, I'm specifying that if I don't have a game server, then I'm going to assume that there's no there's an issue with the fleet not existing. And yeah, let's try this. Let's commit it. We'll call it first pass at moving validation. All right, I'll have that run in the background and have that kick through. That seems good. I'm wondering if I wanted to put more data into here. So here's actually an interesting question. So I've done this previously. While that's running in the background, I'm just gonna have a look at what I did previously. Here we go, game servers, controller. Here we go, validation handler. Oh, I see I had clauses coming out of this validate function. Let's have a look. Okay, that's just invalid issues. Okay. That all looks pretty good. All right, so that's running in the background. That's not a big deal. That's continuing on through. Man, I'm so sad that my stream dropped in the middle. That'll really throw you off, won't it? Ah, man, that's awful. Anyway, that's okay. Okay, so that's running in the background, and that's kicking on through. Cool. All right, so this looks pretty good. I will need to write a test for this, though, so I'm actually going to write some to-dos. Write a test for this. And let's actually scroll up as well, because let's look at what else could potentially go wrong. So right now as well, if there are no ready game servers yet, I return this thing called a not found. And I think that's okay. You're not going to get there should be a details that comes back with game server, but I think that's okay. And I think we'll run with that for now. Basically it's saying, hey, I can't find a game server to allocate to, so that's okay. That feels pretty good. We can actually get rid of that to do because that's all done. That's building. It's building too much, but that's okay. And that's running through. All right, cool. All right, so that seems. I think we're gonna live with that. We're gonna live with that. That seems okay. All right. Cool. What do you all think? Should I be looking up the fleet to see if it double checks or not? Maybe not. I'm decided. Okay, that's creating the images. Beautiful. All right, that's uploading. All right, so we can check this in just a sec. This is great. Let's have a look. All right, beautiful. All right, so that's all there. Let's just check our logs. So I'm going to check the logs on the thing. That all looks pretty good. All right. My fleet's already there, which is not actually what I care about. What I'm actually looking at is my bad fleet allocation. So let's see what happens here. Ah, this looks better. Here we go. Something interesting happened, actually. What happened here? What did I do here? Oh, something different happened. What happened? Why did it not like this? Okay, let's have a look. Great. All right, so we got a better error, But this is fleet allocation simple thing is invalid. Invalid value, map string interface, kind, fleet allocation, blah, blah, blah. A whole bunch of data. Okay, that's what it looked like. API version, validation, failure list. Spec.fleet name in body should match. But it does match. Well, it does. Is it saying that it has to be lowercase? But it shouldn't have to be lowercase. All right, let's try that. I'm actually not sure what's going on. Let's have a look. Let's try it again. Ah, so it did. Okay, so that's strange. I didn't think that was a big deal. But anyway, the blank blank is invalid. Fleet name, fleet doesn't exist. Why does it say the blank blank is invalid? That's an interesting one. Maybe we need to work out what's going on there. But that's a much better error, right? The blank blank is invalid. Fleet name, fleet doesn't exist. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, let's... Why can't we use capital letters here? And I think we've... Interesting question. Actually, here's a fun question. Just for fun. If I do that... Is it... Yeah, so apparently in names inside Kubernetes, you can't use capital letters. I did not know that. We have learned something today. Okay, so that's interesting too. I wonder why that didn't fail before. Also interesting. Okay, I'm liking, so here, whoop, ooh, did that just work? I mean, it did, but why did it work? Did I just change it? So look, simple UDP, server, fleet allocation, yes. Yes, okay, so that's all working. But what I want here is, yeah, see that? The blank blank is invalid. What does that mean and where does that come from? Fleet doesn't exist. So that all looks good, but I don't like that singular error blank thing. That seems very strange. So let's see what we've got going on here. Message, invalid fleet allocation. Fleet doesn't exist. We could probably come up with a better, let's actually make a better message there at least. That'll make me feel happier. Yeah, let's format this by dropping this down a little bit. All right. So this is cool, right? The cause, there's a details thing with an array of causes, and causes, causes are like, what are the things that went wrong? So field wasn't found. So here, let's format.sprintf this fleet %s and then fa.spec.fleet name. So let's put that in there. That'll be a bit nicer. If I have a look at a status cause, is there anything I'm missing? I have type, message, and field. Okay. That's fine. Anything inside details, maybe? Interesting. Why is this? Yeah, sorry, Afraid Duchess. I am back. I don't know how long I was gone for. I apologize for that. My Wi-Fi dropped out. I'm going to keep a closer eye on what's happening with my Wi-Fi. It was very strange. Okay, so the blank blank is invalid. Let's see if I can... All right, so let's do a code search. I think that's probably actually the easiest. The .star ? Is invalid. Nothing to show. I would like that to be a regex. No. Module, no. How do I don't want it from my files. I want it in all files. It'll probably actually be, you know what? That's not going to show. Ooh, where is that going to show up? I want to Agones, actually just go into the project. There you go, source, Agones, vendor, would it show up in there? Here we go. Maybe it'll show up in here. All right, let's open this in the find window. See if this shows up. There's a bunch of, yeah, this doesn't look like this is going to be good to go through. Nope. Why? All right, I would like that to be a not. That's an ugly one. All right. Let's have a look. All right. So let's dig through. All right. So we have admission response. We're sending back a result. It needs to have a status. Status. We don't care about that. Status type string is either success or failure, which we specified. A message, which we specified. Reason that I believe we specified. Reason. Yep. There's a message. Details. That's really weird. Okay. Why? The blank is invalid. Oh, I know why. Actually, that's fine. Okay. Okay. No. Now I know why. I know why it says this. And I'll tell you why it says this. What it's actually wanting. I know why, because I've seen this before. And the reason it is because this object doesn't have a name because we're asking it to create it. So if we had specified a specific name, and actually, you know what? I'll show you. So rather than generate name, we will say name equals foobar, for example, and let's run that. Nope. I lie like a rug. Oh, wait, let's try this. Nope. Okay, I lie like a rug. The blank is invalid. All right. So this is where we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna go dig into the Kubernetes source code, because why not? Because I want to know why this is invalid. So I run. Here's an interesting thing. So there's a couple of things. I run a plugin from a company called SourceGraph, which gives you really good search and stuff like that. And what's nice about that is it makes things a little bit easier to dig through. Now, this is not that useful. Okay. Current map key. Ah, man, I wonder what this is. The blank is invalid. I may end up asking inside the Slack channel to find out what is going on here. This is actually a really interesting one. Okay, the blank is invalid. I wonder if the is valid, maybe something like that. Let's see what that looks like. The patch is invalid. All right, that narrows it down at least to 43 results. That doesn't help. Nope. This doesn't help me. I thought it was going to be the name. I thought that's what it was going to be. Something like that. I'm trying to see what. Nope. Where does this come from? The blank is invalid. Colon. Ooh. Maybe something like that. We put the colon in there. Really? All right. Ooh. This looks interesting. Errors new, invalid. There's a helper test. This looks close. All right, let's have a look and see where this is coming from. So this looks like it's actually a test for something else, but it has invalidation is invalid. Okay, where does that come from? Function test invalid error. T-testing, does this get like referenced anywhere? Nope. All right. It's just a test. Test check error. Okay, what does that do? Let's go to that definition. Let's have a look. Check error, return, blah, blah, blah. This is not useful. Ah, man. That's killing me. I don't know. I actually don't know. The blank is invalid. I wonder if... Ooh, that was my dog hitting her head on the table, you poor thing. You silly monster. Why? I feel like it must, maybe it's the kind, like what resource is it? Is there something that's defined in the YAML file oddly? I don't think so. I thought that it would be like, because it's not given a name, that it would be like, oh, it's this name that's not. Maybe that's it. Maybe it actually is because it's not. That could be it. So that could be it. Let me finish an actual sentence. It could be that because it's not created, it doesn't have a name. Because it doesn't have a name, there's nothing to respond to. And it would actually fail on the edit with an actual name. That could be it. I'm just trying to think if there's a way I can test this real quick. Because I don't have anything that I update. There isn't. I have a strong feeling what it actually is that because we're trying to create it and it doesn't have a name, that's where the name of the resource would be. But because it hasn't been generated yet, it's blank because it's nothing. What I could do is actually look for, say name is invalid. Let's look for that. Here we go, verify. No. Yeah, I can't find it. I have a strong feeling that if this had actually been created, right, it would actually say what the name is in that block there, rather than what it isn't. I feel like that's what it is. But I'm gonna check that in a minute. So actually, you know what? We can test this. We've only got 15 minutes left. No. We can. Oh, actually, you know what? You're right. We can log this too if we want to. So I think we're okay. So yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. How Celiac like print the whole structure with percentage plus v so we can see the field names. Yeah, why not? Actually, I've got a logger in here, so you can actually push it out to with fields. Logger is really nice. We'll call it review, and we'll just spit out the review and info final review response. What do I want? Yeah, that'll do. All right. That'll build in the background. But I have a strong feeling that's what happened. I have a strong feeling that because it's not created yet, that it just doesn't know what it is yet. I think that's what's going on. Oh, my poor dog. I don't know if you can hear her yawning. She's very complaining because she's not getting enough pats. The poor thing. Tell you what, while that's running in the background, I have some. Do I have a bad example? If I fudge one of these, for example, yeah, why don't we do that, and we'll see if the same thing happens. So let's say we add multiple containers, and it's not going to know which container is which. Let's try that. Create -f example. So it's just a failure on a game server. Examples, cpp simple, game server.yaml. All right, so that gives me a different. Oh, interesting. It says there the game server is invalid, which is that's fine. But that's much nicer. We should have something better. It should say the fleet allocation is invalid, whereas on ours it doesn't. What does it say instead? It says the dunk blank is invalid. Okay, that's weird. Okay, why? What's the difference? What did I do in the other place that I didn't do in this place? So let's have a look. Validation handler, let's have a look. Allowed, stasis details. Ooh, here we go. I reckon this is it. I reckon this is it. So inside here, inside the details, status details, I'm passing through the group and the kind details, as well as what looks like the request name. Oh, that would be the name of the object. Oh, so I literally just pass it all the way through. Ah, I'm willing to bet this is it. I'm willing to bet this is it. All right, cool. Let's go into details. Where are we? Details. Here we go. Let's add that. And I literally just compiled this, so I need to build it again. I reckon that's going to give us a much nicer result. So I'm going to github -a git commit. This should be a better error message, because that's fine, right? Like what we had here where it says the game server blank is invalid because we don't have a name, that's okay. That seems reasonable. But what we had before seems that. All right, thank you. Yeah, thanks for people coming back after I dropped off. Out of curiosity, how long did I drop off for? I was just talking until I looked down and I was like, oh, that light's red. That's bad. I'd love to know. I'll have the full recording with everything through. I'll throw that up on YouTube. In fact, I'll probably just cut the edit and chuck that up on Twitch as well, so it's in both places. So I appreciate you all. I was gone for about 15 minutes. Oh my god, that's awful. All right, I need like a sound notification or something that's gonna ping me that says, "Hey, like you've dropped off." By the way, you should note that. That's awful. Oh man, that's awful. I feel terrible. All right. Well, lesson learned. Still getting used to this. Still doing some streaming, but yeah, I'll put the full video up, and I'll chuck an announcement on the Twitch feed and on my Twitter and stuff as well. Just letting you know that's what's going on. So hopefully this will actually solve our problem. Let's see if this builds. I feel terrible. In the meantime, while that's actually building, just so you are all aware, if you're interested in getting started with Agones, I've been fleshing out a little bit more as well on some of the resources that are handy and available. I can see Tinko where you're like, I know what it's like to talk to yourself. Yeah, I talk to myself all the time. So yeah, if you're interested in contributing to Agones, great place first to start is the contributing.md. We have all the things like code of conduct and like what the process is a little bit, probably flesh out some governance a little bit more going forward. But I want to kind of take it down to additional resources. Some of the stuff around like sort of custom resources and building controllers and stuff is probably not necessarily the best documented in the world. But whatchamacallit, here's basically the best links that I've ever found, including the documentation on custom resources. Joe Beda, one of the founders of Kubernetes, did a video series with some sample code on writing controllers. It is awesome. You should totally watch that. There's a sample controller. There's the guide for the code generation for the Go library, so how that gets done. So there's some good stuff in there if you're interested in getting into that side of things, or just in general of how Kubernetes works and that kind of stuff. So that's definitely worth checking out. Okay. That's there. Alrighty. kubectl logs namespace Agones. All right, let's see if that's looking good. Actually, I was going to say get pods. All right, so that's looking good. All right, so let's look at this now. Fleet allocation. All right, there's a bad allocation in there. We get the fleets, we have one of those. All right, create. Oops, I can't spell create. Let's create this one. All right. There we go. That's much better. The fleet allocation blank is invalid, and that's okay. We win. Fleet name simple doesn't exist. That's nice. That's a nice error message. That's the thing I wanted to see. Awesome. All right, so before we wrap up today, because I do need to finish on the hour, and I'll put everything out on YouTube and on the video, so if you want to go back and have a look, I'm just going to put that back the way it was so that it still works. That's nice, actually, and we'll put this back the way it was too, so that still works because we don't want that broken. There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, see? Previous me did this right, new me could not remember. Okay. Cool. That looks much better, and now gives me a really nice error message. There we go. See, the fleet allocation blank is invalid. Fleet name fleet does not exist. Awesome. I'm so happy now. That makes me super happy. What I will show you real quick, another difference just for interest's sake. So if I kubectl describe game servers, I should have all three are allocated. So if I set this back up to, before we wrap up actually, real quick, I'll do one other small thing. Where are we? Yeah, simple UDP server, fleet allocation, you are back to being normal. All right, so all three are allocated. If I do this now, it should come back with, yeah, denied the request not found, which is not ideal. Like that's not the best message in the world. But I think it's okay in this situation. I think we'll be okay with it. So I'm gonna leave this one alone and leave it where it is. And we'll sort of just take it from there. Cool. So let's do go import/w package. Let's make sure everything's all set up the way it should be, which is good. I may come back and double check the reason here. That would probably make me happy. The other, yeah, I think that will make me happy. I'm also kind of happy that, where is the not found? Not that one. No, in here, sorry. Up here, where if we can't find one, it's not found. I kind of don't want to do it later, just thinking about like sort of race condition type stuff. Whereas at this moment, when there aren't any game servers available, then like at that point, I'm like, okay, I can't find one. I'm okay. Let's spit back that error here. If I tried to do that later at the validation, maybe the one had popped up then by that point. And so the state, it may be actually quite difficult to work out exactly the reason. But what I will do, actually, since I'm here, is take this bit here inside status details and make sure that is also in there. There we go. That's better. Let's make sure all that's populated appropriately. That looks much nicer. That looks much nicer. I don't think I'm going to get, because the mutation webhook doesn't actually spit that out as well, then that's fine. Okay, cool. All right, so GST, just make it status. All right, commit. This is producing some much nicer validation errors. Cool, and I will push that up. All right, finally, all right, so last 5 minutes before we finish up. Thank you very much for putting up with my technical difficulties. I really like you hanging out with me and dealing with that stuff. I will get this up on YouTube and I will also, I'll chuck an announcement out when I do that. I should have it up at least by tomorrow at the latest, because I'll be back in the office tomorrow and it's much easier for me to edit video there, and I'll take the chunk out where it's me floundering around in the middle. If you're interested in hearing more about Agones, check out the GitHub link, Google Cloud / or just Agones-dev is an easy, quick link. Follow us on Twitter at Agones. You can also follow me on Twitter and follow me here on Twitch underneath. I don't think I'm going to get to do another stream this week. I'll try, just that I'm traveling a bit this week. I've got some meetings with some people I need to go get on planes to go do. So I may not get another one happening this week, but I will try my very best. I like doing at least 2 of these per week if I can. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at Neurotic. Follow me here on Twitch at Mark Mandel. Follow the project itself and check it out. Join us on Slack. Come hang out with us. We're all nice people. All that kind of good stuff. All right, sweet. Tinko, yes, I am finishing stream. I'm sorry. I have been running for an hour, and I have another meeting that I have to get to in exactly 3 minutes. But I will get the full video out on YouTube either today or tomorrow. I'll get this edited and chucked out. I'll try and get it out soon, and I really do appreciate you coming in and hanging out with me, and I'll try and get another one sorted soon. Okay, I will wave goodbye. It was really good to hang out with you all. Where's my screen? Here it is. I don't know where the camera is anymore. And I will chat to you all later. Tinko, Afraid Duchess, thanks for being so chatty. Same to with Celiac and all the other people who are hanging out with me today. All right, I'll catch you all later. Thank you so much.